How are you guys doing, everyone? It's Play the Comrade, and today we're going to take a look at my custom Panzer tank. Okay, so let's dive right into it. So first, you can see that it's a rather big tank compared to other of my. For example, this Kubuswagen. It's kind of big. However, it's just in the right scale for the minifigures. It's always been a hard thing to try to put minifigures in your tanks. However, when you increase your size like to this big, you can put a lot of minifigures inside. I can personally put 5 or 4, but I still need to put in some in the engine compartment. So now let's talk about the actual stuff about this tank. Firstly, let's look at the front. There's MG32 bow machine gun for the bow machine gunner who sits on the left side. Normally the thing he does is operate the machine gun and help with the driver to identify targets. And on this side, there's supposed to be a driver. I haven't had the time to make a vision port, but I will probably do it pretty soon. The driver just drives the tank around with like 2 sticks. He has a gearbox that he could use, which transfers to this side. Look at this wheel. Look at in the back. This gear actually doesn't turn by itself. The transmission's in the front. So this is the gear that starts turning and it moves the track. So it just the track and then it makes the track go through everything. Now let's look at this side. This is because Panzer is Panzer is a front transmission vehicle, and you can see the overlapping road wheels. It's a design experimented by the Germans in the early stages of the war. They first experimented it on half tracks and it works pretty well, so now they decided to put it on this Panzer tank. The side skirts were added in around 1943 because Soviets started using anti-tank rifles, which could penetrate the side of this Panzer tank. Technically, most of them can kill crews only, but you don't want to lose a few crews on your way to battle. That wouldn't be nice. So they added the side skirts, which if anti-tank rifle goes through the side skirts, its speed will decrease so dramatically that it will not penetrate the Panzer tank by any means. It's also a protection against heat rounds from any tank. Okay, time to talk a little bit about the history of this tank before we go on to the turret part and the back. So this tank is developed in 1942 by Nazi Germany. I'm not here to talk politics, but we are going to talk about this tank and why it was designed like this. So after Germans, they are pretty much succeeding in the Soviet campaign at the start. However, the T-34 tank, designed by that legendary guy, it's very much superior to all the German tanks, the Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs. Although the crews are really bad, they also came in big quantities, so Germany needs something that can at least not balance it, but defeat it, because they want to win the war, not like both sides like have a tie or something like that. So they have 2 paths to go to. One is produce a bunch of tanks so it can come in the same numbers as the T-34 did. However, the problem with that is that the crew quality will of course decrease, and Germany does not have the money to do it. They don't have the materials to do it. They don't have enough oil. They don't have enough oil fields. They don't have enough metal. That became a big problem as the armor of the German tanks decreased so much at the end of the war. And of course, they went with this path. You spend a bunch of money on one single tank, but it's very superior. However, this might have backfired since the Panther tank can still be destroyed later on in the war by T-34-85s, which still came in great quantity. So the superiority in armor and gun doesn't seem that much anymore. The only thing holding the German army together is the quality of the crews and the occasional Tiger and Tiger 1, Tiger 2 tanks. Anyways, that's enough history. So let's go on to the turret. This is a very elevatable gun. There's space here, but I could replace it with some sort of a brick like this, rounded brick like this, but that will make the turret, that will make the elevation and depression very bad. Look, this is very smooth. You can see from the front, the side armors, the side turrets are very angled. The back, there's a place for escape. It's an escape hatch, sort of like. And honestly, it's a much faster way than the Commander Cupola, because the Commander Cupola takes around 2 minutes for the Commander to open it. And honestly, in the middle of a battle, most of the Commander just kept it open. You can see there's a MG machine gun. This is not a real German machine gun, just like probably American one, but I don't have it, so I just have to use it. The gun is a high velocity 76 or 75 gun, which even though it's came in the same caliber as the Sherman tank 75, and it's pretty close to the 17 pounder, which is 76 millimeters. However, it's much better than the 75s or even the 76 since it's very long. The longer it is, the higher the penetration is, if you guys play war tanks a lot. Even though it might not apply to the real battle that well, but that's how it works. That's why it can penetrate most of the Allied tanks, which lacked much armor. So it's a very formidable opponent. Move on to the back. Oops. I had to make this more stable. These two are external fuel tanks, I have to say. There's 2 exhaust pipes. I didn't have time to build that. Sometimes they kept tools on the tanks, and they also kept spare tracks on the sides. The engine hatch, I don't have anything in it. However, this engine hatch is supposed to be opening sideways, so it's supposed to be flip up this way. However, I have to do it like this because some variants have it. That's pretty much it, unless you want to talk about how it actually helped Germany lose the war, sort of. Okay, let's talk about its combat experience. So back in 1942, this was sort of like a shock to the Soviets. Mostly it's a Tiger, but the Panzer also contributed a lot. However, it was failing in 1942 because half of the tanks break down before they even can get into the battle. The transmissions that came from the back of the tank to the front of the tank, which enabled the tank to move, always breaks. The road wheels are very hard to replace. And since it came in very little numbers, you can't just find another tank and be like, oh, get on that tank. It's more of like you have more crews than you have tanks available. So it didn't change the battle much in 1942, and that's why Germany lost pretty hard. The Battle of Kursk, it's sort of like a tie, but they couldn't advance because they don't have something like a breakthrough tank that's really reliable and works. Another problem is that since the side armor is completely not proportional to the front armor, the side armor can be penetrated by a lot of Soviet weapons. So in a battle, since the Soviets are pretty brave, they can always try to get to the side of the tank by going through trenches, just jumping through the battlefield, getting to the back of the tanks, letting a sniper camp on like a roof. They can always find a way to get to the side of the tank even though the tank is advancing forward. And that is a big problem because a lot of tanks are taken out that way. The front is very very nice actually, except the lower glacis plate is like really thin, but that's okay. It contributed a lot to the war efforts, and it's the best design that Germany could have came up with, a balance between the price of the tank and the performance. However, they're destined to lose a war. And they should lose. They should have lost the war. But since this is non-political, this is just a tank design by the best tank designer you can think of. This is a great design. And I'm proud of this. Thanks for watching. I know this is a long video, but yeah, goodbye.